WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Good morning, everybody. As you just got the address, okay. 3807 East 8 Mile Road, and we're there to service you from 10 to 7, Monday through Saturday. And yes, that 586-757 diet is good, and 313-366 diet is good, and the 685-32 is good. I've been with WHPR for 21 years, and it's been a real pleasure. So I don't know, I'm thinking about retiring from WHPR. I don't know, it's just a thought that came to me, and I thought I'd share it with you. And I love y'all, I love being here. It's just that I've been doing this. I started Healthwise, my father and me, back in the spring of 84. Okay, that's when we first got a DBA, doing business as, at the city of Detroit. I don't know, what's that, 84, 16, 22, 38 years. We've been sharing information about health and nutrition. Before we had the show, I was just out here enthusiastic about the 98% of all diseases originate in the colon, so back in 68, I learned about, things you can help to clean out the colon, and it was Facilian husk, Cascale scarata, those things work real good. It's just a little harsh. Some people even got, after about 3 months of using that, they even got start getting blood out the stool. Is, like I say, it's real, real harsh. It's not something you want to take every day, from my experience, But then I was introduced, back in the 80s about reintroduced, I should say, about the benefits of the colon, about the enemas, and it. Like I say, it was a good thing to step up the process of getting the poisons out the colon. And then I met Radia, who was a colon therapist, okay, and she helped me get even more poisons out of the colon, and to help get rid of my glasses, and that was, remarkable. It wasn't just cleaning out the colon to get rid of the glasses. It was also providing a lot of nourishment for the body, and using these pinhole glasses that surprisingly, if you nearsighted or farsighted, you can take your finger and make it to a little bitty dot, and you can, if you either nearsighted or farsighted, you can read, So this company took that concept and made some glasses with a lot of pinholes, and they called pinhole glasses, but you had to learn how to look through the pinholes, okay? So the trick is to just zero in on one hole, and it just, after a while, it just blend everything together, But they don't advise you to drive with it. But riding in the car, you want to look close, look far away. those exercises did work. And other exercises for the eyes work too. And then when I ran across Wayne Rowland, who told us about the silver water, he told us to take the silver water, which is my little personal sprayer here, and you just spray directly, and you blink real fast right into the eyes. And he said all cold starts in the eyes. And he also told us to 2 times up each nostril, and that, excuse me, I got it too deep. And that breathe it in deeply, and that kills, the silver water kills the germs, fungus, bacteria, viruses, mold, yeast, because these are the pathogens. And we started using it for folks who had breathing challenges, asthma, bronchial challenges, etc. And they come back and report to us that they didn't have those challenges. You know, a dear friend of mine who just recently passed, named Daniel, he had asthma challenges for 18 years. And he started using the silver water spray. And he said he didn't use that apparatus that he had been using for 18 years anymore after using the silver water spray, because it broke up that mucus and other causes of his breathing challenges so well he didn't have to use the drugs, and it wasn't no harmful side effects. Like I say, he recently passed, you know, God bless his soul, and his family, my condolences. He took that shot, and I know they didn't put the two together that he took the shot, but it's interesting that the people that I talked to and study with, like Dr. McCullough and Robert Anthony Jr., Robert Anthony Kennedy Jr., they talk about the American frontline doctors, how people who get that shot, they're prone to get strokes and seizures and heart attacks, cancer, just, you know, on and on. And he died at the job, you know, with that. Just, you know, it's just, you know, rough. So we're going to continue to promote health and nutrition through Healthwise. I'm not saying this is my last show. It's just something that I'm thinking about. And yeah, that was touching, because he was such a good guy, you know. The things that Dr. McCullough and American Frontline Doctors and Robert Kennedy Jr. Had talked about is using things like lecithin, okay, because that help breaks up blood clots, you know, because they help emulsify oils, and also NAC, which they are trying to ban. There's 1,200 milligrams of that a day, and also the vitamin D3, anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 IUs of that a day. Even though I've been using 10,000 since 1999, when Dr. Barefoot told me about the many, many, many benefits of vitamin D3. It's just an antidote that we have used for folks who've gotten a shot, along with the dandelion tea. You know, matter of fact, dandelion tea was the first herb, method, nutrient that we use to deal with people who've gotten that vaccine. And it's interesting is this group called the Bollingers. Okay, um, they just put out this 8-page report about propaganda. Man, it was just one episode every day for about an hour and a half, and it was just mind-boggling. And if you would like to get more information about that, just let me know by way. You can text me at 313-600-8532. Or if you want to stop by the store at 3807 East 8 Mile, and we can talk to you about getting more information about that. And that's, speaking about that, it's one of the, we used to get a lot of phone calls and lots of people come by from this show. But as social media changes, people say we should get a Bob or something like that. These are things that I don't know that much about, but I got people that do know about it, and they're suggesting that I put my energy into that to reach more people. Okay, and that's one of my goals is to reach more people. Back 21 years ago, what was that? 2001, February 2001. J.D. Hill came to me and he said, "Man, you got too much information to be in this basement. You need to come on WHBR, And I said, okay. And I was so nervous because back then it was just a radio. And I didn't know what to say and all that. So I must have brought about 10, 15 some of the handouts that we, known for giving out at Healthwise, brought them with me so that I make sure I didn't have enough to cover because it's going to be in there for an hour. And just talking straight for hours like I had never did that, on the radio. And then later on, R.J. Watkins offered us TV. And that's another avenue. But kind of found out that I could easily talk for an hour. It's just so much information that people use can empower them, and I've used myself, and because people constantly teaching me, and it's been, like I said, a real good journey. The bottom line, though, is that it's like Martin Luther King said, if you can just help just one somebody, then your life hasn't been in vain. And that's has been our goal, is to help at least one somebody. I ran across, speaking about McCullough, I ran across this article that he talked about because I had to pick and choose the articles that I can talk about on the station because you get too deep into the COVID and they're like, ooh, and they get censored, and I do not want to be jeopardizing nobody else that comes to WHPR, jeopardizing any goals that they doing. Okay, so by having a station get censored because they giving information out, but this one felt safe. Okay. And this one is a generation of nature, defying youth. It's basically the children are not playing outside, because they COVID, they told them to stay indoors. And then they got all these technology, to play games on computers and et cetera. To stay indoors, and we built by God to be outdoors, and surprisingly, getting that vitamin D from the sun is one of the key factors to help protect us against so many different diseases. it's about 30,000 functions that your body does every day, and vitamin D is involved in just about every one of them. That's why we stress the 10,000 I use vitamin D per day, but some people take less, some people take more. That's just what I take myself personally. But I'm not a doctor, a lawyer, nutritionist, or dietitianist. I just read a lot, share a lot, love a lot. And, I grew up in the 60s, each one teach one. So that's where we at. But according to this one survey, 50% of children spend less than 1 hour outside daily. Less than 1 hour? I remember we was coming up, we couldn't wait to get outside. And once we got outside, we couldn't come back in because Mama said, you're coming in and out this house, open up that screen door and flies come in. So you make up your mind, stay indoors or stay outdoors. Of course, our choice was to stay outdoors. And we get creative on all kind of things we could do, but 1 hour, ooh, wow, that's crazy, To disconnect from nature, to disconnect from God, environment, may be leading to a host of physical and mental problems in children and adolescents, leading to a phenomenon known as nature deficient disorder. Nature deficiencies are on the rise due to increased urbanized lifestyle, which generally include access to fewer nature spaces, lots of screen time, and increased pressure from work and school, which leads to more time spent indoors rather than outdoors. It's not like, I don't know if you ever did it, but hugging a tree is interesting that what we breathe out, the tree breathes in, and what the tree breathes out, we breathe in. And that's inhibited when you wear a mask, okay? And it still gets me that you see people walking by themselves, or even in the park, walking or running, and they have masks on, and there's nobody around for, hundreds of feet or yards. There's nowhere you can catch or transmute virus or colds, and they still wear the mask. Just to let me know just how conditioning people can be. But the virus is so small, it go right through the mask. Okay, and then you got the sides of it, and then you got up here the nose. You constantly getting if there's any toxins in the air, then you're gonna get them into your system. You inhibit your body's ability to get fresh oxygen in, and you're not designed by God to breathe in your carbon monoxide. Matter of fact, it weakens your immune system, and they found that with children, it weakens the mental development. So it's going to have an effect on children's development. I'm thinking it's going to have an effect on adults' development too. But if you're going to wear the mask, we encourage people to take the civil water spray and at least spray that mask with the civil water, because then you're killing some of the germs, fungus, bacteria, viruses, mold, and yeast, based on studies what the civil water does. And the civil water also got oxygen in it, which is another element that fights the causes of a lot of different diseases. Less exposure to nature in youth has paralleled an increase in mental health disorder, persistent feeling of sadness and hopelessness, and suicidal thoughts. That's the thing that's getting me, is more people are committing suicide. I had a way out friend of mine tell me they have this machine called the Voice of God. That's you can't hear it, but it's like subliminal. This message is going out to tell people to commit suicide. I say, wow, this is deep. I don't know what's way out there. Along with that's way out there is that since the 50s, since Area 51, when these spaceships crashed, and President Eisenhower knew about it, and they developed this committee and everything. And they chose not to tell the American public how they've been working with the aliens, okay, since the 50s. And like I say, it's way out there, but this guy named William Cooper, okay, William Cooper, Bill Cooper, he put out this book called The Behold of the Pale Horse. And he had 35 pages in that book talking about the elite, the powers that be, been working with aliens since the 50s. But they didn't want to tell the public because the public might panic or something. But it's like I said, it's an interesting concept, but that may be explained why in the last 50, 60 years we have propelled so rapidly technologically, in technology, because 100 years ago in the 1920s, you're talking about being able to talk to anybody in the world from a little box that you hold in your hand. They had thought you were crazy. But here we are, and everybody got one. Even children have cell phones, and it's just so compacted, so there's a lot of stuff going on. But back to the youth and being outside, and back to you being outside. The youth and young adults' exposure to nature improves collagen function, working with their brain. Decreased attention deficit disorder, ADD, okay, ADD, okay, and promotes self-awareness among other benefits. It's nothing like being out in nature to me, and if the children don't know, then they don't get that experience, until they end up being indoors. And that's, to me, is not the way God designed us, is to be outdoors, be in nature, be in natural habitat, that's God's creation, the woods and the even walking on the earth with our bare feet. They found that it promotes this B-flat frequency that promotes healing in the body. I don't know if you've ever been to Bel Air, where the area is like an off-beaten road, but it's just forces on both sides, okay? And just walking through there, biking, or even taking in your car and maybe pull off to the side for a few minutes, just taking a deep breath in that area is just beautiful, okay? It's kind of like if you're going from here to Chicago, it's just like you notice the air is so much different. Or going from here down south, you notice the air is so much different, They say we used to be able to smell Detroit by the time you cross over, the Ohio border coming from down south. And especially Chicago, it's had a terrible odor. But nothing like being out in God's creation, and it promotes so much healing for the body. Just walking along and hugging a tree, to say, well, that's crazy, but hey, giving the tree love. The tree is constantly giving you love. Having plants in your house, it gives you some real good fresh air to breathe, especially the plants that have a lot of leaves on them. So beneficial, This is just God's just laid back ways of promoting healing in your body. And here, in this case, talking about not only your physical body, but also your mental aspects. Time outdoor is so fundamental to human life that in U.S. maximum security prisons, inmates are guaranteed 2 hours outdoor each day. Yet, according to one survey, 50% of children spend less than 1 hour outdoors daily. This disconnect from the nature environment may be leading to a host of physical and mental problems in children and adolescents, leading to a phenomenon known as nature deficit disorder. Nature deficit disorder is significantly the, quote, human cause of alienation of nature, of which there are many. This, coupled with the fact that U.S. children spend 3 times more hours on computers or watching television as they do playing outdoors, would be contributing to the mental health crisis that emerges among the youth. Hanging out with your friends, communicating, laughing and joking, talking about each other, is so much fun. And you get what you call it, skills in communicating with people while you youth, all right. And being in America, being on this planet, is important that you know how to talk to people, because you're gonna be with them for all your life, and being like I say, in prison they let you out for 2 hours, because they know how important it is. And one of the worst conditions they do for prisoners is put them in isolation, and then to have people listen to the tell live vision and tell them to self-isolate is a horrible condition, okay? What is nature deficient disorders? The term nature deficient disorders was coined by journalist Robert Lowe, author of Last Child in the Woods, which is not an actual psychological diagnosis, but rather a term used to describe a lifestyle deficient that contributes to poor psychological and physical health. Richard Lowe suggests that humans alienate from nature lead to diminished use of the senses. It's your eyes, ears, nose, touch, smell, attention difficulties, and higher rate of physical and emotional illnesses. Speaking from Yale Environment 360, Love explained that there's been a surge in research highlighting the ill effect of nature deficit in recent years. When I wrote Last Child in the Woods in 2005, this wasn't a hot topic. The subject was virtually ignored by the academic world. I could find 60 studies that were good studies. Now it's approaching and about to pass 1,000 studies, and they point in one direction. Nature's is not only nice to have, but it's a have to have for physical health and cognitive function. Okay? It's a must. It's not an option. It's a must to be out in nature. God created you. Nature's just another word for God. Nature deficits are on a rise due to increased urbanized lifestyle, which generally include access to fewer nature spaces, lots of screen time, and increased pressure from work and school, which leads to more time spent indoors and less leisure time in general, as well as less leisure time spent outdoors. Changes in the perception of risk were also highlighted by Lowe as a driving force behind nature deficit disorder, though he was referring to the risks such as stranger dangers at the time. The COVID-19 pandemic magnified perceived risks of illnesses and social gathering even further, such that outdoor time became even more scarce. In a study published in Environmental Research in March 2022, it was revealed that many U.S. college students limit outdoor recreation and reduce their use of parks during the pandemic due to fear about the virus as well as lack of access and crowding. Oh, man. Is us hanging out with one another, human beings, we're more spiritual than we are physical. It promotes healing in the body. It's been tested to prove that when people hug one another, it promotes healing in the body. Laughter, it promotes healing. This lady learned from scientists back in '85 about how laughter can promote healing, and she took it to the next level because she had got cancer in the breast, and her and her husband got all these videotapes back in the '80s, and that's all they did for 90 days to listen to these videos. And when she went back to have her breast examined again, they couldn't find no traces of cancer because of the laughter produced these endorphins which promote healing in the body. Free, okay? Vitamin D has been proven. A couple of years ago when I read this study, probably maybe 18 months or something like that, but they had a worldwide study and they found that the vitamin D, 10,000 IUs of vitamin D will prevent 80% of the deaths in Chicago and Boston based on this worldwide study. Well, you get vitamin D. We have it at Healthwise. You can get a bottle of 250, okay? But you get it free from Mother Nature in the sun. It's just that we are not exposed enough. Our skin is not exposed enough in Michigan to get enough vitamin D. Okay, and the summertime is coming up. We got a blessed week of 80 degrees, but next week I don't know what it's going to be. But this week you want to get you some sun, okay, as much as you can. But throughout all 52 weeks in Michigan, we just don't get enough. But taking it orally is the sunshine vitamin. The reduction in park use was associated with higher levels of emotional distress, as was living in a county with smaller areas of parks per capita. In another study of U.S. adolescents conducted between April 2020 and June 2020, decline in participation in outdoor activities, connection to nature, and mental well-being were noted. It's likely that nature deficit disorder is now even more prevalent than it was prior to the pandemic. Lack of nature is contributing to mental health crisis. B vitamins, I have learned, is the vitamin for the brain, for the nervous system. It helps keep people cool, calm, and collected. Ashwagandha, okay, it's a herb that we have in a gummy, we have in the pills, we have it in the tea. It helps get people to be calm, okay. I like to say cool, calm, and collected. It's amazing how just taking these herbs, how they provide and nourishments, is how they provide the calmness for the body. And the Ultimate Classic, which I like so much because it got 19,000 milligrams of the trace minerals per bottle, which is over 600 per 1 ounce serving. And all diseases is caused by lack of trace minerals. So we used to, when we grew our food, we would take pea moss and leaves and sticks and wood ashes, and put it into the soil, even cow manure, because the cows back then were just eating grass. And they recycled it. God is the biggest recycler that's out. And we would get these minerals into we plant, we would nourish the soil with these minerals, plant our food in that mineral-rich soil, and then we would consume like an apple. We were getting all these benefits. But to get the benefits from an apple from 1950, I heard you had to eat 8 apples today to get the nourishment you got out of one apple in 1950. Okay, so I remember we used to go, my friend, he had a pear tree. Another friend, he had an apple tree. One of the things we would do is go raid some of the neighbors' apple trees and pear trees and things, okay, when we were kids. And like I say, being outdoors, climbing the trees and getting the pears and then getting somewhere and eating them, it was so much fun. Not knowing how healing that was for our bodies, okay. But it's nothing like getting these nourishments that God provides for our bodies for folks to get the benefits. So when you get the ground is nourished with all these minerals and other nutrients. You plant your food in that ground. Now your plant seeds is breaking down those minerals. You consume the food from that plant with all the trace minerals. Now your body take those trace minerals and make enzymes which eat up the parasite eggs that causes diseases. It's interesting, but being in Mother Nature, eating food from Mother Nature is just so healing for the body. We use the vitamin D3, we use the Ultimate Classic, and other vitamins and minerals. See, vitamins are useless unless you have the minerals, because vitamins regulate the minerals. And that's not me saying that. That's from the government in document 264 that was put out back in 36 when they found out how important to get the trace minerals in. But they only put 3 minerals into the soil because that's what it requires for the plant to grow. We need 90 different nutrients every day, and about 70 or 80 of those is the trace minerals. And about 12 or 15 is the vitamins, and about 3 of them is the omega-3s, the essential fatty acids. Those are the nutrients that God designed our body to operate on. No, we're not lacking drugs. We're lacking vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, fatty acid precursors, omega-3s, exercise, walking and talking and hanging out with friends, hugging, shaking hands. The fist bump, elbow bump is okay. At least we touching, okay. But I still go for the hugs because I know hugs promote healing in the body. Lack of nature contributes to mental health crisis. 30 years ago, the greatest public health threats to teenagers, including binge drinking, drunk driving, and smoking in teenage pregnancy, that has been largely replaced with new malice, mental health disorders, as reported by New York Times. In 2019, 13% of adolescents reported having a major depressive episode, a 60% increase from 2007. Emergency rooms visited by children and adolescents in that period also rose sharply for anxiety, mood disorder, and self-harm. And for people ages 10 to 24, suicide rate stable from 2000 to 2007 leaped nearly 60% by year 2018, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The risk in mental health disorders has paralleled an increase in excess cell phone and computer use, defined as at least 3 hours a day, not including homework, among teens in the last decades. As children spend less time indoors, they spend more time on screens, including exposure to social media. Over the same decade, persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness, along with suicidal thoughts, also increase. You may have heard of the term food desert, which describes communities that have limited access to nutritional foods. Park deserts also exist, in which communities lack green spaces for their residents to spend time in. With younger generations spending an increased amount of time staring at screens, living in an urban environment without access to nature spaces, the disconnectedness from nature is getting worse instead of better. Writing in the Journal of BMC Public Health, researchers from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston describe access to nature as an environmental justice issue, adding that, quote, individuals who are Latinx, low income, and or with low levels of education have less access to vegetations, putting their physical, mental, and social emotions well-being at risk. All of this from just being outside, being with God, your creator. You know, you may have been born in a hospital, but the doctor didn't create you. He, give you some shots. Oh, well. What do children gain from nature? Okay. Regular access to and time spent in nature has immeasurable benefits on human health and well-being. Writing in Frontiers of Public Health, researchers with Institution of Psychiatry and the National Institution of Mental Health and Neurosciences in India explain, quote, it is often experienced that a simple walk in a park, observing a plant sprouting to life from a tiny seed, or going on vacation far away from the hustles of the city has at least partially relieved people from overwhelming stress that we might be into and made people feel new again. This gives us a clear indication that man indeed has a deep-rooted desire to connect back to the natural world. However, must he separate himself from it in his technological advances, sophisticated, well-furnished residence? However, it is not only intrinsic feeling or assumption that nature is good for children's health. Research also bears this out in a systematic review involving 35 pages. About half found statistically significant positive relationship between nature and mental health outcomes. Further, it has been previously found that in youth and young adults, exposure to nature improves cognitive functioning, decreases attention deficit disorder, promotes self-awareness. Attending outdoor camps has been suggested as one way for children to gain critical time in outdoors, and one study indeed found benefits when young adults attended a 4-week wilderness camp. In addition to sense of peace and nature connecting and improving, the participants felt that the wilderness environments facilitate social connection and they experienced significant improvement in well-being, including the benefits to 1, perceived stress, 2, relaxation, 3, positive and negative emotions, 4, sense of wholeness, and 5, transcendence. Ecological intervention benefits mental disorders. Ecotherapy is a term to describe the psychotherapeutic techniques that treat mental and physical health using environment and ecological interventions, such as social and therapeutic horticulture, green exercise, environmental conservative wilderness therapy, care farming, and animal assistance intervention. All of these bring people back in touch with their natural roots, leading to health improvements that can be difficult to gain using other interventions. Ecotherapy techniques have been shown to benefit a range of disorders, including high blood pressure, obesity, post-surgical recovery, depression, stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, attention deficit hypoacousia disorder, and adjustment disorders. In 2019 study revealed, for example, that patients in psychotherapy hospital benefits immensely from gardening. Working with plants and soil stimulates reflective processes in the patients, who use the activity in the garden itself symbolically to gain insight into their illness, along with providing calmness and a needed change of environment from the hospital setting. Gardening led to improved mood and pro-social behavior while fostering a sense of community, belonging, and sharing purpose. The patients also experienced reduced isolation and felt the activity gave them a distraction from unpleasant thoughts. Gardening may be so powerful in part due to what's known as attention restorative theory. Attention restorative therapy suggests the ability to concentrate may be restored by exposure to nature's environment. Participants in gardening activity allow an individual to move mentally and physically to a different place, providing an opportunity to feel connected to a larger world and allow the participants to engage in their environment to meet their needs and interests, all of which contribute to restorative environment. Engagement in gardening activities has been associated with stress reduction, increased focused attention, social health, and social efficiency. Wow, just spending time outdoors with God gives you so many health benefits. That's what this article is just keep going over and over and over again in different areas, helping youth reconnect with nature. Positive changes are underway as it's becoming increasingly clear that human needs nature, perhaps more than nature needs us. A survey by HR advisory firm Future Workplace found that access to nature, light, and outdoor views was the number one most sought after attributes of workplace environment, beating out fitness centers, on-site child care, and cafeteria. Even schooling is increasingly taking place outdoors. Love, who co-founded the Children's Nature Network to increase children's time spent in nature, said outdoor schools where the majority of learning occurred in nature spaces have increased by 500% since 2012 in the U.S. Even spending 120 minutes, 2 hours or more in nature a week. 2 hours a week is 168 hours a week, and 2 hours a week that was associated with a greater likelihood of good health, higher well-being compared to no nature contact. And you can break it up any way you want. 1 hour twice a week, 20 minutes 6 times a week, and so on. Encouraging youth to turn off electronics and spend time outdoors, engaging in sports, gardening, walking the dog, or just being in nature should be a priority. Whether you have an opportunity to get outdoors, do it. Meal times, family gathering, and even washing your car are all opportunities to be outdoors. So, overscheduling is another common barrier to youth gathering access to nature's environment. And it's estimated that the average U.S. child spends just 4 to 7 minutes outdoor engaging in unstructured play each day. As such, one of the simplest things parents can do for youth, according to the Children in Nature Network, may also be among the most profound. Quote, make nature play a priority like any other scheduled event and use the time for quality family bonding too. It's nothing like you don't have to wait till the holidays to have family over. You can, watch a game outdoors. Okay, I've seen bars that have outdoors venue, and it's different than being indoors. Okay, people having over to your house, and people set their TV outdoors. If you watch TV or be on the computer outdoors. Okay, but it's not like cutting that electronic stuff off and riding your bike, walking, swimming with an outdoor pool. Running, okay, walking along the beach. Do you know when the water hits the shoreline, it produces negative ions, and the negative ions promote healing in the body, okay? So like being around Belle Isle where the water's hitting the shore constantly, that's a whole island full of negative ions, especially if you're walking along the shoreline. It's just so healing, so beneficial. I mean, we got the vitamin D, we got the minerals, all those important. We're talking about putting it all together to make a difference in people's lives. So we hope this article was made a difference. If you want us to continue here at WHPR, give me a call. Send me a text at 313-600-8532. You can always visit us at 3807 East 8 Mile. And that's about 3 blocks west of Ryan, between Ryan and Nequinda. We're there to service you from 10 to 7, Monday through Saturday. You can call us directly at the store at area code 586-757-DIET. Okay. Our old number still works. Again, it's 586-757-DIET. And our old number still works, 313-366-DIET. Okay. We love you, continue to love you. We're just trying to reach more and more people so we can get this message out. Appreciate you sharing this with family and friends. I still believe in the old concept we learned in the 60s, each one teach one. And it's nothing like God, and it's just provided this beautiful planet for us to live on, to be out in nature with, provided these ways of getting the nourishments into our bodies. You know, the powers to be they got a different program, okay? Ours is to be with God. They promote healing, they promote loving, promote sharing. You know, these are, to me, is God's ways of us expressing God, okay? We more spiritual than we are physical, and, you know, life lives on. Even when we leave this meat suit, our spirit is going to continue to live on, and you will see that. It's just that in this meat suit, we get to not only have the experience of the spiritual, but we get to taste some chocolate cakes, ice cream, and experience our creation, because whatever we think about, we bring about. So thank you for these 21 years, and let us know if you'd like us to continue on. All right. Peace and love, y'all.